Okay, so it's preparing to live stream. It's actually recording. No one else can get to it except me right now. And it's running on YouTube now, which I'm going to ignore. So that's our, we're set up, we're recording, it starts 20 seconds late. The recording's actually not available till a couple hours after the whole thing is done. So I'm also serving as host. Usually we have one of the school district people be our MC. They're busy, so I didn't push them into it. And I'll be working as MC also and asking the questions. Okay, so I think we're ready to go. We've checked everybody's audio and we see the video's nice. And I'll keep admitting folks as they come in. This is an open meeting on Zoom. That. With that, let's see. Oh yeah, one more thing. So the structure of who answers next is going to be really interesting, in that we're going to rotate. And we're also, because John, Eric, and Kara are working towards the same position, we're also going to rotate who responds there between those two. I'll do my doggonest to tell you at the start of the question how much time you have, and the response order until we get it all sorted out. But it is going to be a little complex. Okay. So first up, we're going to start with Kelly. Will be answering first, and then Kara, and then John, Eric, and then we'll go on from there. So the first question is, you have 2 minutes. Please tell us who you are and why you're running. And Kelly, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kelly Hughesham. I'm running for position 1, state representative. I am born and raised in Chinook, Washington. I'm a member of the Chinook tribe. I have been working as a public school teacher in Ilwaco, at the Ilwaco High School for the last 16 years. And
she's running against Bill Walsh.
Oh,
I'm sorry, a second. Wait a minute. I will mute everybody else except for 3 people. Okay. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Phyllis, stop your timing.
We got 50 seconds.
Phyllis, just go ahead and stop it right now.
To start over?
No, just stop it.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Kelly, my apologies. Please go ahead.
That's okay. Let's see. So public school teacher, daughter of a boat mechanic and a court clerk, banker. I am just somebody who wants to see real representation in our representatives. Currently, I don't believe the representatives that are in office truly represent the people I know. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to bring some energy and representation.
Okay, thank you. Kara, you have 2 minutes again. Please take 2 minutes to tell us about yourself and why you're running.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me here today. So I'm Kara Cusack. I am a mom, a grandma, a businesswoman. I have 8 children, 10 grandchildren. 6 of those children of mine are girls. So I've been through everything. I don't scare very easily. I currently am a director for a nonprofit that employs neurodiverse individuals on the spectrum. And they're out of Chicago, Illinois, wonderful organization that is 1,000% behind what I'm doing. And the reason I'm here is because we have seen the all too real reality that our rights that we think are safe are not. They can be chipped away, they can be ripped away in an instant. And I was having a conversation with some of my adult daughters, and one of my daughter who is also a teacher. And I came to the realization that it was really time for me to step up and put my money where my mouth is. And my children don't rely on me anymore. They're all grown. So it's time for me to serve. And so I'm here.
Okay, thank you, Kara. So John Eric, again, up to 2 minutes. Tell us about yourself and why you're running. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm John Eric Hakestead. I'm also running for position 2 for 19th Legislative District. I'm running as a progressive Democrat. I think climate change is one of the biggest issues that we need to start tackling immediately. And that goes for a range of subjects under that umbrella. The other thing I want to see our state move forward on is universal health care. We also need to adjust how we raise money for our schools. Right now, we're not adhering to the constitutional dictates of the Washington State Constitution under Article 9. So we need to figure out how to fix that and make sure that every student in our state has an equal opportunity for education. Housing is going to be a huge crisis here in the near
15
future,
seconds.
and we need to start moving forward on that as well. Everything from abortion rights to LGBTQ rights. If you think about a progressive policy, I'm probably going to share that policy with.
Okay, well, thank you. So for those on board, if in case you don't know, one person here listening tonight is Joel McIntyre, one of our LD19 reps. I've got a few questions that I'm going to ask him somewhere along the way. He wasn't expected to be, so he's here as a listener mostly, but I'm going to throw a couple of questions at him as we get along the way here. So we've got 21 questions we're going to try to get through. Let's see how we do. And most of these are going to be either 1 minute or 30 seconds to respond. So it's going to be quite interesting. So question number 1, and let's see, in this one here, this would be Kara first, John Eric second, and Kelly third. Okay, so the next question is, and you'll have 1 minute to respond. What is your vision for Wahkiakum County, and what are 3 steps you would take to implement it? Go ahead. Kara.
That's for me.
Yes.
For Wahkiakum County, I would like to see some progress on the lawsuit on how the schools are funded. I'm behind that. I think it's highly unfair to have a school that its funding is, we owe everyone an equal education. That's just the bottom line. They shorten that. Other than that, I would like to see some more investment in the local community as far as jobs, and more investment in our teachers in general. I would like to give the classroom back to the teachers. I would like to see them do some of their own assessments on students instead of the standardized testing, and some more training for the counselors, and more counselors in the schools that are trained to deal with mental health issues with children, with bullying and anxiety and depression epidemic that is going on right now.
Okay, thank you. So next up would be John Eric. Again, the question is, what is your vision for Wahkiakum County, and what are 3 steps you would take to implement it?
Yeah, the vision would be to move Wahkiakum County forward, and that would be, of course, number 1 is the school funding issue. We need to make sure that all people have equal access to education. The number 2 thing for Wahkiakum County would still be universal health care. Getting everyone health care is going to be such a game changer despite where you live in the state. Once we can enjoy that freedom, I think that'll be just a huge boon to not just local economies, but quality of life as well. The other thing that Wahkiakum County, I think, will benefit from is really preparing for climate change, specifically pile dike systems along the Columbia River to ensure
15 seconds.
that navigable channels remain open and free, and that as well as for fishing vessels in the area too.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, you're up. 1 minute again. What is your vision for Wahkiakum County, and what are 3 steps you would take to implement it?
Well, first of all, kudos to the voter turnout in your county. That is amazing. I did know that you guys have a high turnout. I didn't know it was that high. So I would just say encourage more grassroots organizing, which is indicative of how powerful rural counties can be. Another thing I would address for Wahkiakum, which I'm sure is the same in many of our counties, is broadband access. We can't move forward in our rural counties until we have the same access that cities have to high-speed internet. And in addition to that, we also need to have better access to healthcare, not just primary care doctors in our rural districts. We need better access to all health care services, including access to women's reproductive health services. And that's why I encourage everybody to look up the Whole Washington initiative and check it out and see if that's something you're interested in.
Okay, thank you. So question 2 on our list. Oh, by the way, hey, Phil,
Yes,
when you're giving the time, just say 15, don't say 15 seconds, okay?
That's
It's
good.
coming across real good. Thank you. So
Right.
number 2, this is a 30-second answer response time. And John Eric would be first, Kelly second, and Kara third. Okay. Question is, property taxes have been on the rise in Washington. Are you willing to stand for lower property taxes? And then comment as much as you want within your 30 seconds. Okay.
Yes,
John Eric.
we can lower property taxes. The way to do that is to raise taxes on the incredibly wealthy in our state. The 1% need to be paying their fair share. Major corporations need to be paying their fair share. Let's change how we tax the ultra wealthy instead of relying on the working class.
Okay, thank you. And so next up would be Kelly.
You bet. So I'm right there with John Eric. There's no reason why a state like Washington that has multi-billion-dollar industries in it cannot afford to lower property taxes for, frankly, people like me who struggle to pay those property taxes. And also, there's no reason why school funding should be dependent on local property taxes. We need to change that funding structure.
Kara.
I'm going to sound like a broken record here. I absolutely agree 100% with the other two. We've got to cut property taxes, especially with the housing industry like it is right now, and the costs. We've got to make it easier for people to be able to afford to buy homes. So absolutely. And the way we fund that is exactly that. We make taxing more fair.
Okay, thank you. We're on to question 3 now, and here's where the order is going to change. So Kelly's going to be first again. Whenever Kelly comes around first, we're going to swap the order between Kara and John Eric so they get a chance to listen to each other before responding. So for number 3 here, the question it'll be another 30-second response question. Kelly will be first, John Eric will be second, and then Kara will be third. Okay. Okay, here we go. So do you believe in defunding the police? Why or why not?
No, I don't believe in defunding the police. I do believe in getting them specific training to deal with mental health issues. For one, I'm actually the sister of a WSP sergeant. He's out of Vancouver. I believe in what a lot of law enforcement agencies stand for, and we just need better training for them to deal with the unique challenges that they're coming across today.
Okay, next up that would be John Eric.
I am for defunding the police because the rest of that statement is defund the police to invest in community. I believe our communities need to have more investment. The militarization of our police departments is incredibly alarming. There are many issues at hand with equipping police with military grade weapons. We started to see some of that issue. And I think I'll leave that there for the limited amount of time.
Okay, so again, Phil's going to say 15 seconds, so it does have more time, but that's fine. So let's see, Kara.
I absolutely do not believe in defunding the police. If anything, we need to give more funding to the police. They need more training. What I do think we ought to do is have, I am a fan of some of these programs going on with mental health task forces that actually are trained to go out on calls that don't necessarily need to involve police officers. But absolutely not. We should not defund the police. If anything, we should increase the funding that they have.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so next question, and by the way, if I if I mess up the order, call me on it, but I'm going to try to say the order here. So the next up would be for question number 4, it's going to be a 1-minute response question. And let's see, John Eric will be first, Carol will be second, and Kelly will be third. If I got this right. Okay, here we go. Oh, and by the way, several of these questions, just as an aside, are written as you would likely hear them in our county from people that are concerned about issues. So for example, on the last one, do you believe in defunding the police? And John Eric added to that what the common statement we might hear is. Understand, these questions come from people in our county and how they write them. We edited very few of them. Okay, so so here we go. Question 4 then, and again, oops, help. Who did I say was first?
John, then me, then Kelly.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. How does climate change affect Washington State? And more importantly, from where do you derive your information? John Eric, go ahead.
Well, climate change drastically affects our state in many, many ways. We're seeing changes to our atmosphere and particularly atmospheric rivers coming our way, which is leading to more flooding in our area and landslides. The rise of oceans will affect a large portion of the 19th legislative district everywhere around waterways that are affected by tides, especially along the coast. There's going to be huge ramifications for that. Roadways, bridgeways, railways, everything is going to be crumbling into local waterways or the ocean itself very soon. Where does my information come from? It comes from peer-reviewed sources primarily. Well, that's both sides, right? So the IPCC has released 3 reports recently. One talking about what climate change is, one talking about how we know it exists, and one discussing what we should be doing about it in the future. Those IPCC reports are largely what I base my information on what we should be doing in the future. Information gathering is much more vast than that and includes NOAA and NASA and all sorts of different peer-reviewed scientific sources.
Thank you. Kara.
So climate change, this is a fun one. I get all my information from scientific sources, people that are experts in the area. Climate change in Washington affects all of our industries, our agriculture, our fishing, our lumber industries, and it affects them on a massive scale. And what we have to do for climate change in Washington, regardless of what your opinion is of where climate change came from or why it's here and it's measurable and it's real. So we have to take measures to protect our industries that are so very dear to us, like the salmon, but we have to do it in a way that doesn't hinder the same industries. We can't go in and say, like, trying to 100% neutral in such a short amount of time, I think is a little bit too forward. The difference that it takes to go from 95% to 100% is exponentially difficult.
Okay. No, you go ahead and finish your thought. You didn't have to stop right then.
I think we do more harm than good by trying to push the extra mile just to get that extra, feather in your cap. We have to look at things realistically, and we have to look at how they affect industry.
Okay, thank you. Kelly.
So like Kara said, it drastically affects our industries here, our very lucrative shellfish industry here in Willapa Bay. But more on a personal level, I'm a storyteller. So last year, after we had that 100+ degree day, a bunch of my trees were scorched. About a couple of weeks later, we heard a big boom. There was a wildfire that started, we still don't know how, about maybe a quarter mile from me. That was the most terrifying 5 hours of my life, where they were bringing in helicopters to try to put out the fire. That has never happened on our peninsula. We've had fireworks related We've had, other things like started by people. We don't know where this came from. So it's not just all about me. It's all about the people, the property owners that pay property taxes that deserve to have their property defended.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is going to be a 30-second question, and Kara's first, then Kelly, then John Eric. And the question is, the CDC just approved vaccinations for children under 5. Do you believe children under 5 should be vaccinated? And we've got a few more seconds to continue with that response. So Kara, you're up first. Kara, you're up first.
Absolutely. These vaccines are nothing new. We're treating something new with it, but the way these vaccines are made is not a new concept. This is not something to be afraid of, and the fear mongering with them is quite ridiculous. Absolutely. As soon as my youngest sons were available, he's 10, well, he's 11 now. He was one of the first ones in line, and absolutely, my granddaughter, who is 5, will be one of the first in line for those. And absolutely, we need to protect them.
Okay. John? Oh, wait.
Was it Kelly or me?
Oh,
No, I'm unmuted. It's fine.
yeah, go for it. Yeah, sorry about that. My screw up.
I agree with the CDC. Science is science. We need to start adhering to scientific principles moving forward as a society. It's the best thing for our overall health as a community.
Okay, thank you. And Kelly?
So I just tested positive for COVID yesterday. It's not fun. And my children luckily are fine because they are both fully vaccinated. I will get them their boosters when they're ready. And I know a lot of people who are waiting for their under 5 to get their vaccinations. So I fully support all of that.
Okay, thank you. Question number 6, and this is a note for the team here too. I'm going to modify a little bit. It talks about the legislature, so I'm going to ask if Joel's available. I'd like him to respond first to this question. Give him a minute. Joel, if you could be available, that'd be dandy. So I'm going to gab for just a second here to give you a chance to pull over whatever you need to do.
Yep, just let me get pulled over.
Okay. So this question asks about the state legislature, so I thought I'd throw him under the bus first, or throw the question to him first, and then it's going to be Kelly, and then, oh shoot, I lost track. You guys are keeping better track than me. John Eric, you would be next, and then Kara, you would be third. Right. Okay, good. Okay, so hey Joel, you okay? Ready?
Ready.
Okay, here's a question. What steps do you think the Washington State Legislature should take to encourage Washington residents and businesses to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels for transportation?
Well, the Washington legislature doesn't actually have to do anything to incentivize people not to use fossil fuels. As fossil fuels become more expensive, the free market already has a pressure on people not to consume fuels, but make a transfer over to electric and other forms of transportation. So as you can see, there's more electric vehicles on the road today than ever before. And it didn't actually take a mandate or a law or any pressure actually from the government to do it. People on their own will make the purchase for electric vehicles, which will save them money on gas. And so there's free market principles that our government doesn't actually have to dogpile on to help people make that transition.
Okay, thank you, Joel. So, so everybody else, so about 30 seconds. And again, Kelly, you're first. Again, the question is, what steps do you think the Washington State Legislature should take to encourage Washington residents and businesses to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels for transportation? And Kelly, I have you up first.
Okay. I think we need to make economic incentives for people to be able to afford electric vehicles. I cannot afford one. I'd be driving one right now. Seriously, if they made electric trucks, I'd be the first one in line, but it's not feasible right now. So there has to be something we can do from the standpoint of making it more affordable for people.
Okay, then if I'm reading my notes right, John Eric, you would be next.
Yeah.
Okay, great,
So-
thanks.
Increasing green infrastructure from individual use, roadway charging stations, mass transportation systems, buses, trains. What are we moving toward for electrical use? There were incentives in the state to buy electric vehicles. We should be doing more to promote electric vehicle use. Moving away from fossil fuels is what we understand, what we know in the scientific community that we must do to save the future of our planet.
15.
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. Kara.
Well, what can we do to increase that or reduce our dependence on fossil fuels? Well, I think Kelly had it right. We need to give people incentives to be able to buy electric vehicles, but more than that, we need to make the cost to own them less. We need more charging stations. I have an electric vehicle that I absolutely love. It's a great little car, but the problem is it takes too long to recharge. It doesn't take much electricity, which is great. It's like $50 a month that it adds to my electric bill in total. But if I'm out and about or I need to go a really long way, it's very difficult because there aren't a lot of fast charging stations, everywhere that you need to go. So I think increasing our capabilities along, charging stations out in the world and making fees less for them and encouraging people to buy them.
Okay, thank you. Hey, this is just a note for Joel. Got about another 7 questions before I ask one of you again, so we've got time to drive some more. Question 7 now is also a 30-second question, and let's see, that would be John Eric, you're first, I think. Is that right? John Eric, then Kara, then Kelly. Okay, question 7. What is your opinion on term limits for state and federal politicians?
Yeah, I like the idea of term limits. New ideas, new people, new ideas. We should be constantly moving forward. What I've noticed growing up and as an adult in my adult life is that we've been caught in a stagnated phase. Our government has
15.
really come to a grinding halt in the face of all this obstruction. And we really need to find a way to get the ball rolling again. And if term limits is the way to do it, I'm all for it.
Okay, thank you. Kara, you would be next.
So the question was term limit?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, the question, yeah, sorry. Yeah. What is your opinion on term limits for state and federal politicians?
I absolutely would love to see term limits. Hands down. I think we need it. I think that would get rid of a lot of the corruption and problem that we have in politics. I would be 1,000% behind term limits for all voted offices, all elected offices.
Okay, Kelly.
Well, I think it's unanimous. Term limits for sure. As a high school teacher, what I hear the most from my high school students is they see that it's pointless to vote because the people who are going to be who are in power are going to continue to be in power. And you need to turn over the compost. Okay. It's not going to make the compost unless you rotate it. So we need to get fresh ideas.
Okay, thank you. So question 8, and Kara would be first, Kelly second, and John Eric third. And again, correct me if I screw any of that up, okay? Question 8, 30-second question. If elected, what will you do to support Wahkiakum School District's lawsuit to equalize funding across the state for buildings, the same as we have done for instruction? I missed a comma there. Let me try that again. If elected, what will you do to support Wahkiakum School District's lawsuit to equalize funding across the state for buildings? The same as we have for instruction already. I'm
not sure legally what I'm able to do to support the lawsuit, but what I would do is support any further bills or measures that would codify those type of changes into Washington and make sure that we do come up with a more fair funding system for our schools.
Okay. John Eric. So I think, John Eric, wait a minute, did I screw that up?
I think it was
Yeah, I
Kelly.
did. Yeah, Kelly, I'm sorry, Kelly, thank you. Kelly, you're up, sorry.
Sorry about that.
No, doesn't matter.
Okay, so I'm a teacher. Number one, this is my first reason for running, is because I've seen so many problems in the education system, especially over the last 2 years, that I want to change, but I can't change from within the system. I've got to go up. So anything that can bring equity to rural districts, I will put any weight I can behind it. Like Kara, I'm not sure from a legal standpoint what I could do, but I'm there for anything they need.
Okay, John Eric.
Yeah, having read the lawsuit, I agree with 100% of it. I read McCleary decision, agree with that. We are not following our state constitution under Article 9, Section 1. We're not making education the paramount thing that our state looks after. And we need to start doing that. So I would do everything
15.
our ability, just like the others, to make sure that children in our state are getting an equal education.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is a 1 minute to response. Kelly will be first, and then this is where we swap John Eric and Kara again. So Kara goes second and John Eric goes third. Did I get that right? I think so. Okay, so so here's a question again, 1 minute to respond. And this to me is probably the most intriguing question on the entire list. I'm really curious to see the responses. If you support, now here's the question. If you support, quote, my body, my choice, unquote, for abortion rights, do you believe the same regarding vaccinations and boosters for people who may decline them for medical or religious reasons, or who have already had COVID-19?
I love this question. I believe in bodily autonomy, period. But you are not exempt from the consequences of your choices. You know, if you are denied access to a certain place because you don't have a vaccination, that's those consequence of your choice. So I, of course, believe in full bodily autonomy for all reproductive, abortion, healthcare, anything that has to do with a person's body should be a decision that they make only between themselves and their doctor. But they can't expect to, you know, if people choose not to get vaccinated, you may not have access to everything you want.
Okay, so I think Kara is next. And
Yes.
again, the question, if you support, quote, my body, my choice, unquote, for abortion rights, do you believe the same regarding vaccinations and boosters for people who may decline them for medical or religious reasons, or who have already had COVID-19?
I do, absolutely. I do not believe in vaccine mandates. But in the same regard, such as Kelly said, there are certain restrictions that may be put on you because of that. But I think for businesses, it should be up to them how they want to accept masks in there or not, and then it should be up to every person if they want to go in there or not. But as far as schools have always had requirements. So the school needs to make a decision on that. If they're going to be required or they're not, then the parents make a decision if they want to go to that school or not. And as far as employers, I think that one's a little tougher, but I think employers need to, as much as they can, make exceptions for people and make arrangements for people to be able to continue to do their job if they choose not to be vaccinated. Such as some we have that we allow to work from home or work remotely if they don't want to be vaccinated. No one should be controlling anyone else's bodily decisions.
Okay, thank you. I didn't quite get those last few words, like the last half of your sentence because of the beeping. Can you say that again?
I don't believe that government should be regulating anyone's bodily autonomy.
Okay, thank you. Okay, John Eric.
Yeah, I'm close to the others, but there's one thing I'd like to point out is when somebody goes for an abortion, the person they walk next to in the grocery store doesn't get pregnant, right? It seems silly. It seems silly when you hear that, when I say that out loud, right? But we're talking about a global pandemic. We're talking about diseases, viruses that can kill other people just from breathing the same air that they breathe. So I believe there needs to be some level where we say, you know, a person that's like a dentist working in somebody's mouth all day, perhaps we should say, you know, some people need to have a vaccine or be wearing a mask inside at the very least. So I'm not going to say body autonomy 100% always, because our Supreme Court has actually ruled against that in 1905 during the first outbreak of a pandemic. So there are situations where the laws of our land have already dictated that our actions that lead to consequences for other can be regulated.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is a 30-second question, and it'll be Kara, then John Eric, and then Kelly. And you're probably gonna tell me how come we only yell because I'm only allowing you 30 seconds. We'll see how this goes. So question 10, what is your opinion on breaching the 4 dams on the Snake River that might help save salmon, while doing so could adversely affect energy, irrigation, and commodity barging?
Oh, 30 seconds. Wow. I think trying to eliminate 100% of the dams on the Snake River is a mistake. I don't think it's been thought through thoroughly. I think trying to take measures to circumvent the damage that is done and maybe cut them down is more realistic. I just think we're overreaching on a goal we're trying to get too far too fast.
Okay, John Eric, again, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so this one was actually going to be next week's research, so I'm not fully on top of everything here. But I will say that my initial response is that we must be moving 100% forward, trying to mitigate climate change and the ramifications thereof as much as we possibly can.
15.
If that means that removing dams on the Snake River is a way to do that, again, I don't have all of the information yet in my head, but if it ends up being a net positive, I would say that I would be on board with that. Of course, this is outside of our 19th legislative district. We might get a vote on it in the future anyway as a House representative. That being said, I don't know everything on it right now. I would say climate change is going to be my #1 thing moving forward, and preventing the extinction of a species is pretty high up on the list.
Okay, thank you. Kelly.
So as a member of the Chinook tribe, the salmon is not only important, but it's sacred. But for that, kind of on the other side of that, I think removing the dams is cart before the horse right now. We need to have the other energy infrastructure in place, the more green energy, that to replace that energy source before we can
15.
talk about removing those.
Okay, now again, that was the 15-second note. They had a few more seconds. If you wanted to say, one other sentence or two, it's up to you.
I miss the days where we could pull 50-pound salmon out of the river.
Yep. Okay. So the next question is question 11, and John Eric would be first, and Kelly second, and Kara third. Yeah. 30-second question. Do you believe children in 3rd grade and below should be taught sexual education and gender studies without parent consent?
Yeah, there was a bill introduced about this that a lot of people had misperceptions about. The sexual education of elementary students is about educating them about what is right and what is wrong in regards to their body autonomy.
15.
Other people should and shouldn't be allowed to touch them with or without their consent. So when we talk about sex education of young children, it's teaching them about how consent, about what it means to say no in and be okay saying no in the right circumstances. So I support the idea of sex education in that context.
Okay, so I want to clarify, right? At the beginning of your response, you said, yeah, it sounded like you were saying you were thinking about the issue and how to respond to it rather than saying, yes, I support or no, I don't support. Correct? It was
I think it's because there's been such a misunderstanding in regards to what that question is actually asking. So I was trying to communicate to what I thought the question was actually asking.
gotcha. Okay, so again, so the question is, do you believe children in 3rd grade and below should be taught sexual education and gender studies without parental consent?
Kelly,
Okay. I don't believe without parent consent, but I do believe that the parent consent needs to come from a place of being truly informed about what that curriculum includes. And John is right. John Eric, sorry, is right that it includes more about consent and about understanding that your body is your own at those younger grades. It's age appropriate. I've looked at it and I highly support it. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with having those conversations with parents to let them know that this is not, I wish they wouldn't call it sex education. That there's a messaging problem there.
And Kara,
I absolutely think parental consent is necessary for that. But I do agree the message needs to get out there to these parents exactly what is in the curriculum. I think the curriculum should be shown to the parent and let them review it and let them decide. That is too early of an age to teach something so controversial without parents' consent. I don't agree with that.
okay, thank you. So the next question has to do with the state, whoops, no, it doesn't, sorry. Yeah, has to do with the state legislature again. So if Joel's available, yeah, he's still here. I'll put him up first again. And then we'll go with John Eric and then
we
Kara.
started with John last time.
We did? Did I screw that up? Oh, I skipped a question. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Sorry. I skipped a question. So I'm sorry. So question 12 is Kelly's up first. It's a 30-second response question. And what is your opinion of the censorship happening in social and mainstream media?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I'm not a fan of censorship in general. However, it kind of goes back to the vaccine mandate things where it's not about your freedom to do something. It's about the consequences of those actions. So are we talking social media, Jess? You know, I know that Twitter, there's a lot of stuff going on there. But, you know, it's a big question. I'm not sure how to answer it in 30 seconds without having it be like a direct question. I'm against censorship. I'm an artist, and most good art comes from a place of making people uncomfortable. So.
Okay, thank you. So for the next two guys get a chance to respond again, there was deliberately 30 seconds and deliberately wide open to see how you'd respond. Okay. So again, so the question is, Dennis, what is your opinion of the censorship happening on social and mainstream media?
Is it my turn?
Hang on. Yes, because we two swapped. Yeah, thank you, Kara.
Okay, awesome. There is a limit to free speech. You cannot go yell fire in a crowded theater. So if you're saying something online, or there is something that is
15.
Is measurably causing harm to another person, causing violence to another person, inciting violence, then I understand censorship in those cases where there is an obvious legal issue. In anything else, I do not. You should not censor somebody because you believe they're telling a lie.
Hey, John Eric.
Yeah, I'm an artist as well. I'm opposed to censorship. However, I do not believe hate speech is equal to free speech. That's one of the things I think our country needs to work toward changing. The Supreme Court made that ruling Mattel v. Tam in 2018. That kind of changed the precedent,
15,
allowed the rise of hate groups that we're seeing to really proliferate. So I am vehemently opposed to book burnings and censorship of what books are in our libraries. But I do understand that white supremacy must not be allowed in all forums.
Okay, thank you. Again, now the next question is one having to do with the legislature. And if Joel's available, I'm going to have him speak first. And I think I messed up the order, but so what I think after Joel, the first person to respond would then be Kara, and then John Eric, and then Kelly, I think, if I got it right. So Joel, are you available?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go. This is question 13. What would you like to see the Washington State Legislature do to encourage installation of solar panels at private residences and on rooftops of public buildings and commercial buildings?
Ron, you're going to be tired of me saying this, but this is the same answer that I gave before, and that is the government is not in the solar panel business. It is not the state legislature's job to be figuring out how to put solar panels on people's roofs.
15,
Some people can afford solar panels. Some people cannot. They're getting cheaper every year. They're getting better quality every year. And more people are putting them on their roofs because they want to supplement their electricity bill. They want to be more fiscally well as a household, and solar panels can help with that. Our government should be in the business of following the Constitution and doing things that lower entity governments cannot do. And I am just fine at putting solar panels on my house if I wish. I don't need the government to do it. And the government would be wise to just butt out and allow the free market to do its magic.
Okay, thank you. So John Eric, I think you're next. If I got this right. Did I screw that up?
Yeah,
Carol,
but that's okay. We're
Okay,
all
so-
right.
Okay, so
So
Kara,
yeah, I
then
hate,
John Eric, then Kelly. Okay,
I hate to do this, but I'm going to agree with Joel. I think we have enough problems to worry about right now, especially when it comes fiscally, to worry about programs for solar. They're out there. There's a lot of competition out there. I see programs all the time to help people get solar in their side. I think we have other problems to worry about than trying to get into the solar business as a government.
okay. Okay, I'm thoroughly lost. John Eric, go ahead.
Generally speaking, our government subsidizes fossil fuels. So why can't we subsidize green energy systems? I think it's well within the rights of the state Washington legislature to
15,
incentivize Washingtonians to start creating more green energy systems and capture and store that energy, so that when there are times that when we don't have energy or other states need energy, we can sell it to them or move it around. We need to move forward, and that's one way to do it.
Okay, Kelly.
Yeah, solar energy, especially out here at the coast. I don't know about some of you. We don't have a lot of great weather for that, but there are other ways we can get more green energy. You know, there's wind power. We can do offshore wind farms, but there's nothing wrong with incentivizing people putting up solar panels to make it more affordable for someone who's maybe on the cusp of being able to afford it, but just needs a little bit of extra help. We all have to work together, and that includes the government.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next question is going to be a 1-minute response question. I think this would be John Eric first. Okay, thanks. So question 14. Again, it's a complicated question. If more should be done to keep weapons out of the hands of dangerous people, but criminals don't follow laws and would gain weapons illegally anyway, how would you propose stopping them from acquiring weapons?
I love that question. What's the point of any laws? Right? That question always amuses me, because when you look at the fundamental question, it's asking, why have any laws at all if criminals are going to break the law? Well, we make laws to make our society better, to make our communities safer, to make people more equal, right? There are reasons laws exist. One of my proposals to get guns out of hands that shouldn't have them is to make owning a military grade weapon or an assault weapon something with an RPM, rounds per minute, over 300. Any gun with a RPM over 300,
15,
you need to be trained by the military in how to use it. Now, what does that mean? Joining the military? Well, right now that's your only option. There's no military training force, right, created yet. But that might be something to look at. We have to figure out a way to make sure that white men from 18 to 21 years old don't continue to shoot up our schools, churches, grocery stores, and anywhere else they might attack in the future, like pride events.
Okay, thank you. So again, the question is, if more should be done to keep weapons out of the hands of dangerous people, but criminals don't follow laws and would gain weapons illegally, how would you propose stopping them from acquiring weapons?
Is that me next?
Yeah, I think so,
Okay,
yes.
great.
Thank you, Kelly.
Okay, well, this is a hot button issue for me because I'm a teacher and, I live in terror every day that I go into my classroom. I know exactly what to do if there's a shooter outside in the hall, if there's one that comes through my door, if there's one that's down the hall, I know where to take my students out the window. That's wrong. The fact is, most of these shooters are typically, community members that are of that young age. Their brains aren't done developing yet. Why do they have those young people, 18 to 21? Why do they have access to weapons like that? It's wrong. Walk into a classroom during a lockdown drill and tell me that people need those kind of weapons.
Okay, thank you.
15.
Kara.
This is a really difficult one, especially for me. We absolutely need some smart gun safety regulations with measurable effect. And we can see what those are. But the biggest thing, the question here is criminals, and that's closing the loopholes. We need to close those loopholes where you can just go and buy a gun from the gun show and then hand it off to such and such. We need to hold people more responsible for the weapons that they do own. Parents need to be held responsible if they let children get a hold of a dangerous weapon. I think raising the legal age to go and purchase a weapon is a great idea. I've had guns all my life. I have guns that are probably older than most of you. But I was always taught, how to use them safely and how to keep them away from people that shouldn't touch them. I know where my guns are at all times, and there is no one else that can access them. And if somebody breaks into my house, a criminal breaks into my house, they're going to have to go through a lot more than just find one on cabinet in a dresser.
Okay, thank you. The next question is related to that question. It's also only a 30-second response question. And if I'm reading this right, it'd be Kelly first, then Kara, then John Eric. So 30-second question. Do you support hardening our schools?
God, no. If anything, our schools are too hard. After the last 2 years, I've watched my students spiral from anxiety, depression, lack of resources at home, housing crisis. If anything, our schools need to be a place where students feel safe and loved, first of all. They should not be terrified by getting bullied or getting shot. we need schools to be a safe place.
Kara.
So it depends on your definition of hardening the school. Yes, we do need to put some measures in place to toughen up our schools, not arming teachers. That's not my definition of hardening a school. But I think some simple things that we can do without making children and teachers feel like they are in a prison. We have to harden our schools, but we have to do it in a way that makes our teachers and our students feel safe.
Okay, John Eric.
The only data that I can find about hardening schools and the effects that it has on students is that it decreases their willingness and ability to learn. There is no data that suggests hardening a school in any physical way
15,
increases the safety of the students. So I support what has been done at Mint Valley Elementary, where they tried to brighten up the hardening of the fence around their thing with colorful fence stakes. Good on you trying to make it more inviting, but the data tells us that is not the way that will benefit students.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question is also related. It's also a 30-second question, and I have Kara first and John Eric, then Kelly. 30-second question. How do you feel about the gun-free zone signs that are posted on all the schools?
Gun-free zones don't keep criminals out. It can help with accidents or people getting a hold of something that they're not supposed to. Somebody walking around with a concealed carry that doesn't know what they're doing with it, isn't trained, and maybe they leave it on a bathroom cabinet, which has happened. It might help with those situations, but it's not going to keep the criminals out of there.
Okay, John Eric.
Yeah, I feel neither one way or the other about school free, signs. Who cares about the signs? The point is, you don't want to bring guns onto campus, because we know, again, looking at the data, that
15,
statistically, when you are around a gun, you are 100% more likely to be shot by a gun than if you aren't around a gun. So that the idea is to keep people safe by guns away from certain areas. Now, criminals are going to be criminals. Again, that goes back to what I said before. The laws are there to make us safer, and we should be using them to make us safer.
Okay, Kelly.
I love and trust my colleagues at the high school, but I asked my students one day, do you want me armed? And they're like, no, God, no. And then I started rattling off other teachers. Do you want them armed? So a gun-free zone, yes, I understand the signs are ridiculous, but
15,
John Eric is right. Kids don't learn when they feel unsafe. And a lot of our kids feel unsafe around guns. So yeah, it's a nice messaging point, but I don't think they belong there.
Okay, the next question is also a 30-second question, and it is shifting to a different topic. And I think, John Eric, you're first. And the question is, what does government transparency mean to you, and why is it or is it not important?
Government transparency means the government is telling us what they're doing, why they're doing it, and when they're going to do it. Why it's important is because we live in a democracy, right? We are the government. At least that's the idea. We elect our representatives,
15,
represented us in government. So transparency of government is vital to our democracy.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, you're next, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So transparency is a big deal to me. I'm a proud union member of and I was on our bargaining team for our teachers union. And just that microcosm of watching, maybe not all the transparency that was needed during our bargaining agreement
15,
meetings. I realized that transparency is extremely important, because if you don't have buy-in from the people you serve, you're not going to get anything done. Our elected officials are public servants, so there's no reason why we should know what they're doing.
Okay, Kara.
Sorry, my phone started ringing in the background. My husband left it here. Transparency, very important, but it does have limits, right? If it involves the safety of our military, there's certain things that we can't just give away at a certain time, and there's a better time for those things to come out. Transparency doesn't necessarily mean you get to know everything all the time in an instant.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is another 30-second question. And by the way, time-wise, we're doing great. So thank you, candidates. This is pretty amazing. Question 18. 30-second question, and Kelly, you're up first, and I think it's John Eric and then Kara, if I've got it right here. What past, this is kind of a fun one. What past or current national politician would you say best represents your views and opinions?
Oh,
While you ponder that a second, hey, Joel, it'd be fun to have you respond to this one too, but after everybody else responds, if you're available. Okay, Kelly.
Oh my God, there's so many. It goes from week to week, depending on what they're doing. I hate to say this because she's actually voted against some pretty important things for women, but Liz Cheney, oh my gosh, talk about somebody who's going beyond partisan politics and doing what's right. I have thoroughly enjoyed watching her during the hearings. I am so impressed. And it's really changed my mind about her. So I hope she continues to live up to that.
Hey, John Eric.
Bernie Sanders or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, progressive through and through. We need to move forward on climate change, universal health care, all that.
Okay, thank you. Kara.
I'm gonna say who I respect most at the moment is everybody on the January 6th committee, but especially Liz Cheney and Kinzinger for standing up for what they believe and what they know is right, and going against the grain to stand up for what's right.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Joel, if you got a second, do you have a chance to respond to that one?
What's the question?
The question is, it's a kind of simple. What past or current national politician would you say best represents your values and your views and opinions?
Oh, easy. Grover Cleveland, hands down. Democrat, by the way.
Okay, so I've got a second. I'm not up on my history. He was like over 100 years ago, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we'll look him up. Okay, thanks.
15,
Okay, so on to the next question then. And thank you, Joel. I think there's going to be one more, question 20. We'll give a chance to jump in on also, Joel, but for now, question 19, it will be a 1-minute response time. And I have John Eric is up first. And the question is, how would you propose to deal with the homeless problems in our state?
Yeah, that's not an easy
Nope.
problem to solve. I think the first thing is affordable housing. And how do we do that? Well, this one is really going to excite the Republicans. I'm talking about hempcrete. Yes, hemp, the male version of the cannabis plant. Now, if we're going to do anything real about climate change, we've got to get past old stigmas associated with plants. Hemp takes in a lot of carbon from our atmosphere, and that can be put into building structures. Hempcrete, you can 3D print hempcrete and make homes in one day. Australia is already doing it. Hempcrete is fireproof. It regulates temperature and humidity, and it absorbs more carbon as it ages, and it gets stronger as it ages. There are so many benefits to hempcrete. It can grow in abundance here. We should be using it as a natural resource to bolster our economy.
Thank you. That was a new one for me. I have not heard that. I'll have to look that up. Okay, so again, the question is, I think Kara's next. How would you propose to deal with the homeless problem in our states? Homeless problems in our state.
Well, the first thing we need to do is address some of the problems with addiction. We have some pretty good programs going on out there for people that are in difficult situations, but we need to address the problem with addiction. We need good access to mental health care. We've got to encourage more people in the field of mental health care. It is very hard to get sometimes right now, and especially for younger people, for teenagers. And we've got to support them. If we can help people get stronger mentally so that they can maintain jobs and be in society, we can really start to knock down on some of that homelessness problem. Other than that, yes, there are situations where some people just have problem affording housing, and we need to attack that. Yeah, but I think the biggest thing is mental health care and addiction.
Okay, thank you. Kelly.
So the availability of housing is an issue. The problem we face a lot, especially in vacation communities, is big corporations come in and buy up a bunch of housing, turn it into vacation rentals, and then nobody has a place to live. So that's one of the issues. But Kara's right. We need to address issues of addiction, issues of mental health, issues of access to healthcare. There are so many other things. In education, we have that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And until people's basic needs are met, you can't expect them to move up the hierarchy. So, it's not just about affordable housing or more housing. It's about taking care of these people so that once they get that housing, they can be successful.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next question 20 is one, if Joel, if you're free, I'm going to have you weigh in on first. And you have a 1 minute response. Everybody does. 1 minute time. Question 20 says, habitat loss is one of the major factors contributing to declining salmon and steelhead populations. Where do you see opportunities to increase state and federal funding to restore streams such as the Wahkiakum River?
Yep, I'm on.
Okay.
No, I got the question. Yep, that's actually a fantastic question and a very hard one, because there's actually not an easy answer. The habitat loss is a natural result of an encroaching human population on the West Coast, where we've taken more and more land, we've taken more and more water and streams and shade for those streams, and now there are proposals to take that property and convert it back into more stream habitat. We can do that, Ron, but it's going to come at cost. Okay, so we can get more salmon. I can guarantee you we can get more salmon. But what am I supposed to tell the farmer who has that property right alongside that stream? We can say, well, let's buy it from them. Let's give them money and compensate them for it. Well, then that comes at cost. Who's going to pay for it? It's going to be the taxpayers. So how many salmon are we really going to get from one stream where there's 25 square miles of habitat loss that we need to bring back? I'm not an extremist on this. I don't believe we should strip the land of all of its resources. I also don't believe that we can divorce ourselves from the land. There has to be some sort of moderation. But the proposals that have come up lately in the legislature have been way too far to one side.
Okay, thank you. So I think the order now is Kara first, if I'm reading right.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So the first thing I think we need to do is get some experts in here on how to get rid of the predators that are causing some of the problems. The seals and since we have more city, we have more predators that are near the water and attacking our fish, and because they're searching for more food. So I think instead of taking land from landowners, what we need to do is kind of look at how we can mitigate the damage that's being done from the encroaching wild population for the salmon.
Okay, thank you. I think Kelly's next, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, along the lines of the sea lions, you can only throw out so many seal bombs to, protect your fishing gear. We need help. Even just as recent as about a week ago, I saw somebody post a picture of salmon with the bellies just bitten out of them. The California sea lions have got to go. They've got to be managed. We got to find out a way to do that. I know the Army Corps of Engineers was working on, relocating Caspian terns. That kind of helps, but we need to work together, and it's not just one answer. We need more access, more hatcheries. We have the old Chinook River hatchery that people have been trying to get going again here. That stuff is not just providing more salmon, but it's also providing an opportunity for the community to participate in the booming up of the salmon population. So it doesn't come down to just one thing. It's a lot of things moving parts together.
Okay, thank you. John Eric?
Yeah, a lot of moving parts together. The predators, I think I'll just add on the European green crab that's decimating the vegetation in our areas too. What about the chemicals that we're spraying on the dandelions in our yards? Those are impacting all of our local waterways as well. Roadway runoff even can impact fish. They're finding methamphetamines and cocaine in a lot of our wildlife in waterways in the Puget Sound area and locally too. So there's a lot of different human influences that are happening in our waterways that we should be addressing moving forward if we're going to do something about this whole climate change thing and how it's
15,
killing off a lot of species.
Okay, thank you. Question 21 is next. It's the 30-second question. And by the way, after this is going to be that last question that says, something along the lines of, you have 2 minutes. Please tell us what you want the audience to take away from our time with you. But that's the next question after the current one. So the current question 21 is, and I think this is reading it right, Kelly's up first. And the question is, 30-second question. What is your opinion of safe injection sites and needle exchange programs?
All for it. We are lucky to have a pretty great drug task force in our Pacific County. They work very hard to, bust the houses where the cooking is happening. We just learned that apparently fentanyl is actually being manufactured in our county. So, however, that's just treating the symptom. We need to get harm reduction measures in place so that people can do it safely, and then hopefully then get hooked up to the resources they need at that safe injection site. It's not just a place for people to go and get their needles, okay? It's a place where people then can connect to local resources.
Okay, thank you. To Kara, I think you're next.
I'm a little torn on those. I think it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing to help provide this and start addressing some of the addiction problem. I'm not sure it's the total right way to spend the money. I think the money would be better spent on mental health care and addiction programs.
Okay, John Eric.
Yeah, when we look around the globe, we find that these programs actually benefit the people who use them, and it benefits the community that utilizes them. So these programs would be a very good idea moving forward for our community and the lives of
15,
the population who uses.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the last question is, again, the one that you guys have had already, and that is to please take 2 minutes to summarize what you'd like your audience to take away from this hour and a half, or almost hour and a half we've had together. So let's see, who do I have going first? I'd like to swap it up a bit. I'd like Kelly to go first.
That's a 2-minute run.
Yes, ma'am, 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Kelly go first, Kelly go last. Okay, let's have Kelly go. Which way do you want to go, Kelly? First or
I'll
last?
go first.
Okay, go first,
Yeah, you bet.
and then we'll see who wants to go next, okay? So Kelly,
Great.
go ahead, 2 minutes.
Okay, so I love where I live. This is, I left for 13 years to get my education, and I came back to the community where I grew up because I love it here. I wanted to raise my children here, and there is no reason why it can't be a shining example of a legislative district. We have so many natural resources that need to be taken care of, but we also have an incredibly more diverse population than people would think that has so many talents, so many gifts. So I think that I am a unique representative for those people, being that, you know, I've gone out and seen the world, but I've also come back home because I want to be here. I want to serve this community. I want to serve this legislative district. This place is amazing, and it deserves representation from people who are passionate about it. And I am that person.
Okay, thank you. Kara, John Eric, which one would you like to go? Okay, Kara, go ahead.
All right. Well, what I would like to everybody to know about me is that I am here because I think we need to change the way we're doing things. And I think it's the right thing to do for myself, for my children, for my family, and for the people of Washington. We have to come back to the table and start talking to each other. Everyone has been so polarized on these issues that are right and left and red versus blue, and I have to vote exactly the way my party says, and that has to stop. Because we all want to talk about these hot button issues and you know, what gets me the most publicity if I try to push this through and that through, or let's just not vote on a bill because I don't want anybody to see where I actually stand. We have to vote on every single bill that comes across. And I will have a record of how I vote on every single bill that comes across. And we have to work together. We have to. Everybody in the middle is getting left out. We're getting left out because everybody's so busy fighting. So what's important to us, like housing affordability and you know, small farmers' rights, the overregulation of small business and farmers is all getting left out because everybody wants to talk about the issues that are getting all the news media. And I'm here to do that. I'm here to be the voice of the people in this district. I'm here to talk to the left and to the right and try to get some reasonable conversations going back on again. I miss those days and I need those days to come back.
Okay, thank you. John Eric.
Yeah, I'm running as a progressive Democrat. I want to see us move forward as a society in regards to climate change, in regards to acceptance of our fellow human beings. There are things that I won't abide by. The rise of white supremacy in our area is very troubling. We need somebody to stand up to it. I will be the person who stands up to white supremacy. The divisions in our community are troubling, yes. I'm not so willing to work with people who don't believe in the science of climate change. I won't be so willing to work with people to keep folks away from the voting polls. I think we should be getting more people to vote. We should be ensuring that our fellow Americans have equal rights. You know, we need to be moving forward as a society. That's the way our government was literally built. There's a reason that amendments are a part of our system. When we learn new information, we can take that information and apply it to how we do things to make our lives better. That's what I want to do. Let's make our lives better. I was born and raised in this community. I've seen the stagnation in our area and the reliance on people who don't believe in peer-reviewed science. We need representatives in our house, in our state house, that believe in fundamental science. That should be the very base level of acceptance for somebody who's representing our district. And that's one of the reasons I'm running. Right now, we don't have a representative who adheres to the principles of science. We have a representative who voted against more than 100 bills in the last legislative session. We need somebody to move our area forward. And I believe that'll be me.
Okay, thank you. So I think that wraps up our evening. Um, all three candidates, thank you very, very much for doing this, for being a part of this. And thank you, Joel, for dropping in and being willing to answer a couple of questions. After the primary, we really hope to do this again and have everybody here who makes it through, everybody here doing this kind of conversations again. You all three have been great. Our audience has been wonderful. And I thank you. And again, this is from the Wahkiakum Votes Committee. And again, our goal is to get over 90% of people voting in our county, which we think would be really cool. And with that, I think I'd like to say good evening.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Ron.
Yeah, so the committee, hang on a second. Mary, Debbie, Phil, hang around. Let's see. Okay, Mary, Debbie, Phil. Captain Micum. Are you going to drop off? Or basically the committee is just going to talk about the results, what we saw. Ursula, be best if you could drop off, that'd be fine. If not, the problem is if I knock you out, it doesn't let you back in again later on. So it's better if you take yourself out. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drop these other two folks off then. And Ursula, hang on one second. Okay.